Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. This is Sportstagator. Before we start this video, make sure to drop a like on this video and please subscribe for more awesome content in the future. Here's my list on who I think is going to be rebuilding in 2019 and who's going to be a contender in 2019. The Arizona Diamondbacks. Record in 2018 was 82-80. The 2018 season for the Arizona Diamondbacks was mostly a disappointing season because they had high hopes of making the playoffs again but didn't make it. After trading Paul Goldschmidt to the St. Louis Cardinals for Luke Weaver, Carson Kelly, Andy Young, a compensation balance round B draft pick in the 2019 MLB draft. They are not rebuilding just yet, but I would say they are just retooling to fill in the holes of their roster by trading Paul Goldschmidt to the St. Louis Cardinals. I honestly think the Arizona Diamondbacks will be a competitive team in NL West for the next 1 to 3 years and maybe a playoff spot too. The Atlanta Braves. Record in 2018 was 90-72. The 2018 season for the Atlanta Braves was a surprising great young team that made the playoffs. Nobody thought they would even be in the playoffs or even have a winning record. I honestly think this team will get even better each year with the great young core of talented players they have on this team. They do have the talent to have something special in the future. The Atlanta Braves are done rebuilding and are a playoff contender now. I see this team being a playoff contender for the next 5 to 8 years. The Baltimore Orioles. Record in 2018 was 47-115. The 2018 season for the Baltimore Orioles was a disaster of a season with a disappointing record of 47 wins and 115 losses that just showed how terrible they were. They weren't supposed to be that bad, but they were. Maybe they might even break the record for most losses in 2019. You never know. The Baltimore Orioles are no longer a 500 team or better anymore. They will be a rebuilding team for the next 3 to 5 years, I think. The Boston Red Sox. Record in 2018 was 108-54. The 2018 season for the Boston Red Sox was a fabulous season indeed because they won the World Series with 108 wins. They will be a threat for the World Series for the oncoming future. I think the Boston Red Sox will be a contender for the World Series for the next 5 to 11 years. The Chicago Cubs. Record in 2018 was 95-68. The 2018 season for the Chicago Cubs was a great season but just ended right away in the wildcard game. They were hoping to get back to the World Series again, but that didn't happen. The Chicago Cubs are a threat for winning the NL Central and the World Series too. Cubs got a lot left in the tank for being a World Series contender and will be a World Series contender for the next 3 to 6 years. The Chicago White Sox. Record in 2018 was 62-100. The 2018 season for the Chicago White Sox did not go as planned by losing 100-plus games. They are in their second year of their second rebuild after rebuilding from 2013 to 2016 and pulling the plug on their first rebuild and restarting over fresh in 2017. I certainly think they will be rebuilding between 2 to 3 more years. The Cincinnati Reds. Record in 2018 was 67-95. The 2018 season for the Cincinnati Reds was not as fun as they were hoping for. They were hoping for a record closer to 500. The Cincinnati Reds are getting closer to ending the rebuilding period in Cincinnati. I certainly think they will still be rebuilding for the next 2 to 3 more years. The Cleveland Indians. Record in 2018 was 91-71. The 2018 season for the Cleveland Indians was not as great as they were hoping for because they got swept in the first round of the playoffs. The Cleveland Indians are still a good threat for a playoff spot in the World Series too. I absolutely think they will be a great team for the next 2 to 3 more years. The Colorado Rockies. Record in 2018 was 91-72. The 2018 season for the Colorado Rockies was a great season, especially because they made the playoffs again. Unfortunately, the Colorado Rockies got swept in the first round of the playoffs. The Colorado Rockies are just in the beginning of being a playoff contender, and I see that lasting 3 to 7 more years of maybe playoff baseball in Colorado. The Detroit Tigers. Record in 2018 was 64-98. The 2018 season for the Detroit Tigers was not a good season at all. It was their first rebuild season of their current rebuild. It's not going to be fun to be a Detroit Tigers fan for the upcoming years. I suspect the Detroit Tigers will be rebuilding for the next 3 to 8 more years. The Houston Astros. Record in 2018 was 103-59. The 2018 season for the Houston Astros was a great season, especially because they won 103 games. and that is the most in franchise history. The Houston Astros are currently one of the best teams in baseball, and I suspect they will be a playoff and World Series contender for the next 4 to 7 years. The Kansas City Royals' record in 2018 was 58-104. The 2018 season for the Kansas City Royals was just a horrible season overall, and that's just the beginning of it. I positively think they will be rebuilding for at least 5 to 9 years. The Los Angeles Angels' record in 2018 was 80-82. The 2018 season for the Los Angeles Angels was not a good season, especially because a lot of people thought they were good enough to make the playoffs. The Angels are a hard team to figure out if they are a true playoff team or are they just a fake. They've had 3 seasons in a row under 500. They are still a competitive team that can't get over the hump. I positively think this is a competitive team that will stay competitive for the next 3 to 4 years. The Los Angeles Dodgers' record in 2018 was 92-71. The 2018 season for the Los Angeles Dodgers was a good season that took them to the World Series that ended poorly. The Dodgers are still one of the best teams in baseball even though they lost in the World Series to the Boston Red Sox. They are still a contender for the playoffs and a World Series for the next 8 to 12 years. The Miami Marlins' record in 2018 was 63-98. The 2018 season for the Miami Marlins was the first year of rebuilding again, after just being in a rebuild for the last 12 seasons prior to the 2018 season rebuild. The Miami Marlins will be rebuilding for the next 4 to 8 years. The Milwaukee Brewers' record in 2018 was 96-67. The 2018 season for the Milwaukee Brewers was a great season overall, but they just fell short of reaching the World Series. They are going to be a contender for a playoff spot and maybe a World Series appearance too. I positively think they will be a contender for the next 5 to 7 years. The Minnesota Twins' record in 2018 was 78-84. The 2018 season for the Minnesota Twins was a disappointing season for not being over 500, when they were hoping for a wildcard spot or maybe a division title. The Minnesota Twins are a threat for a playoff spot for the upcoming future. I certainly think they will be a playoff team for the next 4 to 7 years. The New York Yankees' record in 2018 was 162. The 2018 season for the New York Yankees was a great season overall, but ended too soon for the Yankees in the NLDS. The Yankees are going to be a World Series contender for quite a while. I absolutely think they will be a contender for the World Series for the next 7 to 12 years. The New York Mets' record in 2018 was 77-85. The 2018 season for New York Mets was not what their management and fans were hoping for in 2018. It was a disappointing of a season because they thought they were a playoff team from the beginning of the 2018 spring training. The Nets are still a competitive team for the next 2 to 3 years. The Oakland Athletics' record in 2018 was 97-65. The 2018 season for the Oakland Athletics was a tremendous season, especially when everyone thought they were a last place team in the AL West in 2018. I suspect the Oakland Athletics are a contender for the next 4 to 7 years. The Philadelphia Phillies' record in 2018 was 80-82. The 2018 season for the Philadelphia Phillies was an okay season overall, being super close to the 500 mark. I would say the rebuild is basically over depending on who they sign in the offseason as free agents. I think they will be a contender for the next 6 to 8 years. The Pittsburgh Pirates' record in 2018 was 82-79. The 2018 season for the Pittsburgh Pirates was an okay season overall, especially because they were a couple of games over 500. I absolutely think they will be a competitive team for the next 1 to 3 years. The San Diego Padres' record in 2018 was 66-96. The 2018 season for the San Diego Padres was not a good season at all, but it's their 3rd year of rebuilding. This team will not be a playoff team for some time, but I suspect they will be rebuilding for the next 4 to 6 years. The San Francisco Giants' record in 2018 was 73-89. The 2018 season for the San Francisco Giants was a horrible season overall, especially because almost everybody thought they could have a chance for a playoff spot. So I would say this is their last chance with the roster they have to be a playoff team in 2019. I absolutely think this will be their last chance too to be a competitive team this season until a rebuild starts in 2020 season. I think they might be a competitive team for the next 1 to 2 years. The Seattle Mariners' record in 2018 was 89-73. The 2018 season for the Seattle Mariners was a great season, but ended too soon in the regular season by being eliminated by the Oakland Athletics. The Seattle Mariners are officially rebuilding now by trading away such stars naming Robinson Cano, Edwin Diaz, James Paxton, even letting go of Nelson Cruz, their DHer, to free agency. I absolutely think the Mariners are now rebuilding. How long will it take for the Mariners to be competitive again? That's a great question. This rebuild could take forever because the Mariners have been rebuilding since 2004 and stopped rebuilding in 2007 and then restarted again in 2010. They did not get out of that rebuild until the 2014 season when Robinson Cano got signed. So what I'm basically saying is that the Seattle Mariners are not predictable at all. But my guess is that they will be rebuilding for the next 4 to 10 years or maybe even longer than that. Like maybe forever. The St. Louis Cardinals' record in 2018 was 88-74. The 2018 season for the St. Louis Cardinals was an okay season overall, but could have gone better if they made the playoffs. The St. Louis Cardinals have had a over 500 record for the last 11 seasons in a row. They even required Paul Goldschmidt from the Arizona Diamondbacks for Luke Weaver, Carson Kelly, and Andy Young. They are not ready for rebuilding mode yet, but I suspect they will be a contender for the next 3 to 5 years. The Tampa Bay Rays' record in 2018 was 90-72. The 2018 season for the Tampa Bay Rays was a good season overall, but the season ended early by not making the playoffs. I would absolutely say they will be a playoff contender for the next 4 to 6 years. The Texas Rangers' record in 2018 was 67-95. The 2018 season for the Texas Rangers was not a season to remember at all. Unfortunately, Adrian Beltre will retire in 2018 at the age of 39, with his last season with the Texas Rangers. He'll be a hard guy to replace at third base for Texas. The Texas Rangers are going into their second year rebuilding mode in 2019. I suspect they will be rebuilding for the next 4 to 7 years. The Toronto Blue Jays' record in 2018 was 73-89. The 2018 season for the Toronto Blue Jays wasn't great this year. They were hoping to make one last run at the playoffs with the roster they had in 2018, but that did not happen at all with a record under 500. I positively think they will be rebuilding for the next 4 to 9 years. The Washington Nationals' record in 2018 was 82-80. The 2018 season for the Washington Nationals was not what everyone on the team and management were hoping for by missing the playoffs. Without Bryce Harper, they won't be as good as past teams. I think the Washington Nationals are going to be a competitive team for the next 1 to 3 years. Who do you guys think who's going to be rebuilding in 2019 and who's going to be a contender too? Leave your comments below and tell me what you think. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe and like, and please share this video with friends and family. And this is Sportstagator signing off. See you next time.